Commander Elena Torres stood at the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching Nexarian fleet. To any conventional scanning technology, this base appeared to be nothing more than an abandoned mining operation. In reality, it housed Earth's most advanced defense command center. "Status report on the quantum mesh," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. The massive holographic display showed thousands of seemingly primitive satellites orbiting Earth, a carefully crafted illusion hiding humanity's true technological capabilities. Dr. Marcus Zhang, Earth's chief of quantum technologies, stepped forward. "The mesh is operating at optimal efficiency, Commander. Our quantum-entangled network remains completely invisible to their scanning systems. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see, a planet still struggling with chemical rockets and basic space stations." The deception had begun 30 years ago when humanity first detected the Nexarian scout ships at the edge of the solar system. Instead of broadcasting their discovery and racing to build conventional defenses, Earth's leaders had made an unprecedented decision: to hide their true technological advancement while preparing for the inevitable confrontation. "Update from the Artemis array?" Torres asked, turning to Captain James Okonjo, her senior tactical officer. "The deep space quantum sensors are tracking their entire fleet," Okonjo reported, manipulating the holographic display. 3,000 ships, arranged in traditional conquest formation. Their technology appears exactly as our intelligence suggested: energy-based weapons, particle shields, and conventional FTL drives. Torres allowed herself a grim smile. The Nexarians, like many spacefaring species, had followed a predictable technological path, focusing on bigger weapons, stronger shields, and faster ships. Humanity had chosen a different direction entirely. "And our defense grid?" she inquired, though she already knew the answer. She'd helped design it, after all. Dr. Zhang expanded the holographic display, revealing Earth's true defensive capabilities. Thousands of quantum state manipulators orbited in precise formations, completely phase-shifted from normal spacetime. Swarms of self-replicating nanite defenders waited in the upper atmosphere, ready to disassemble any hostile craft at the molecular level. In underground bases across the globe, reality-warping strike craft stood ready to deploy through artificial wormholes. "All systems are operational," Zhang confirmed. "The Nexarians still believe we're limited to chemical propulsion and radio communications. They have no idea about our quantum manipulation technology, our consciousness-to-machine interface systems, or our ability to alter the fundamental properties of spacetime itself." Lieutenant Maya Patel, head of electronic warfare, interjected from her station. "The latest intercepts from their command channels are amusing, Commander. They're discussing how to best guide this primitive species into the galactic community. Their battle plans are based entirely on overwhelming our primitive defensive capabilities." Torres moved to the central strategic display, watching the real-time feed of the approaching fleet. "Their overconfidence will be their undoing. Humanity has always excelled at adaptation and deception. While they focused on perfecting existing technologies, we explored entirely new scientific paradigms." The room fell silent as they observed the Nexarian fleet's continued approach. Their ships were arranged in traditional attack formations, designed to maximize the effectiveness of energy weapons and particle shields. They had no way of knowing that their entire strategic doctrine was about to become obsolete. "Initiate final preparations," Torres ordered. "Operation Phantom Phase begins in 72 hours. When the Nexarians launch their attack, they'll learn that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology, it's our ability to think beyond conventional boundaries." As her officers moved to execute their orders, Torres remained at the window, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The Nexarians thought they were about to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they were about to learn why humanity had survived countless challenges throughout its history: adaptability, creativity, and the ability to turn apparent weakness into unprecedented strength. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the Nexarians to spring it. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in the subterranean command center known as the Aegis Hub, Commander Elena Torres and her team monitored the final phase of humanity's elaborate deception. The Nexarian fleet had crossed Jupiter's orbit, their ships moving with the confidence of predators who believed their prey was helpless. Quantum mesh deployment at 98%, Dr. Zhang announced, his hands dancing over the holographic controls. Around Earth, countless microscopic quantum processors activated, each one part of an invisible web that could manipulate the very fabric of reality. The mesh is already gathering data on their shield frequencies and weapon signatures. Lieutenant Patel's station suddenly pulsed with activity. "Commander, we're detecting increased communication between their vessels. They're beginning their pre-invasion protocols." Torres nodded, moving to the central strategic display where a real-time simulation showed their true defensive grid. What the Nexarians saw as empty space was actually filled with humanity's most advanced weapons, devices that didn't just break the laws of physics, but rewrote them entirely. "Status of the Lazarus Protocol?" Torres asked, turning to Captain Okonjo. "All planetary defense AIs are synchronized and ready," he replied, bringing up a new display showing the neural network that connected Earth's defensive systems. The adaptive algorithms are already processing the Nexarian battle formations, identifying patterns and developing countermeasures before they even fire their first shot. Dr. Isabella Reyes, head of the Quantum Mechanics Division, stepped forward. Her team had spent decades developing weapons that operated outside conventional physics. "The reality anchors are in position, Commander. The moment they engage their FTL drives within our defense perimeter, we can locally alter their spacetime coordinates. Their own momentum will become their weakness." The room's lighting shifted as a priority alert flashed across all screens. Lieutenant Patel's voice carried a mix of anticipation and amusement. "They're launching scout ships, Commander. Small vessels, likely meant to test our primitive defenses." "Perfect," Torres smiled. "Time to give them their first lesson in humility. Dr. Zhang, initialize the Phantom Protocol, but keep it subtle. Let's show them just enough to make them curious." As the scout ships approached Earth's orbit, they encountered what appeared to be a simple satellite defense network. The Nexarian vessels easily avoided the seemingly primitive weapons, exactly as planned. What they couldn't detect were the quantum fields already mapping their every movement, analyzing their technology, and preparing countermeasures. "Scout ships are taking the bait," Captain Okonjo reported. "They're focusing their scans on our decoy defense systems. The quantum mesh is collecting detailed data on their scanning technology." Torres watched as the scout ships continued their reconnaissance, completely unaware that they were revealing crucial tactical information with every scan, every maneuver, every communication burst. Earth's quantum defense network absorbed it all, learning, adapting, preparing. "Their main fleet is adjusting course," Lieutenant Patel announced. "Based on their communications, they're convinced our technology is even more primitive than their initial estimates suggested. They're actually reducing their defensive readiness." Dr. Reyes manipulated her holographic display, showing the complex quantum calculations being processed by their defense grid. "The arrogance of their approach is actually working in our favor. They're not even attempting to mask their shield frequencies or weapon signatures. The quantum mesh has already developed counter-frequencies for 90% of their offensive capabilities." Commander Torres stood at the central platform, watching as humanity's most ambitious military deception approached its culmination. "Send word to all defense stations. Operation Phantom Phase is proceeding exactly as planned. When their main fleet arrives, they'll find that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology, it's our patience." The assembled officers worked with quiet efficiency, each monitoring their stations as the elaborate trap continued to unfold. The Nexarians believed they were about to launch a simple conquest of a primitive world. Instead, they were about to become an object lesson in the dangers of underestimating humanity. Final defense grid status? Torres asked, her voice carrying the weight of decades of preparation. All systems optimal, Dr. Zhang confirmed. The quantum mesh is ready to rewrite the rules of their reality. They think they're preparing for a conquest, they're actually preparing for a revolution in warfare they never saw coming. As the scout ships completed their reconnaissance and began their return journey to the main fleet, humanity's true defensive systems remained invisible, waiting. The Nexarians would return with their full invasion force, confident in their superiority, never suspecting that their every move was part of humanity's carefully orchestrated plan. High Admiral Xerxes of the Nexarian Imperial Fleet stood on his command bridge, mandibles clicking in anticipation as his ships moved into attack formation. The primitive human world hung before them, its crude satellite network and antiquated space stations offering what he assumed would be token resistance. Begin the attack sequence, he ordered. Disable their communication systems first, then target their military installations. Standard Conquest Protocol. The first salvos of energy weapons lanced out from his ships, aimed at Earth's satellite network. The beams struck their targets, and passed straight through them. "My lord," his sensor officer called out, multifaceted eyes widening in alarm. "The satellites, they're not real. They're advanced projections of some kind." Before Xerxes could process this information, new contacts began appearing on their sensor screens. Where there had been empty space moments before, thousands of sleek vessels shimmered into existence, their surfaces rippling as advanced quantum fields deactivated. In the Aegis hub, Commander Torres watched the Nexarian fleet's confusion with grim satisfaction. Initiate Phase 2. Let's show them what humanity is truly capable of. The quantum mesh activated in full, its invisible web of reality-altering processors beginning their work. Nexarian ships suddenly found themselves operating under different laws of physics as localized space-time fields shifted around them. Their energy weapons dispersed harmlessly into quantum sync fields, their shields became useless against weapons that simply ignored traditional physical barriers. "Their fleet is attempting to regroup," Captain Okonjo reported, monitoring the tactical display. "They're trying to adapt their shield frequencies, but the quantum mesh is changing faster than their technology can respond." Lieutenant Patel's station lit up with frantic communications from the Nexarian fleet. "They're broadcasting in all frequencies, Commander. Most of it is confusion, but there's a lot of fear too. They've never encountered anything like this." In space, the battle, if it could even be called that, continued to unfold. Humanity's quantum-shifted vessels moved with impossible grace, appearing and disappearing at will. Nexarian weapons found their target simply ceasing to exist in normal spacetime, their shots passing through empty void where human ships had been microseconds before. "My lord," the Nexarian science officer reported to Admiral Xerxes, his voice trembling, "these humans, they're not fighting us with conventional weapons. They're altering the fundamental properties of spacetime itself." Dr. Reyes monitored the quantum calculations as they processed in real time. "The mesh is adapting perfectly, Commander. Each Nexarian counter-strategy is being analyzed and neutralized before they can even fully implement it." In desperation, the Nexarian fleet launched their fighter squadrons, only to find themselves engaged in combat with an enemy that didn't seem bound by physical laws. Human craft phased through solid matter, emerged from seemingly empty space, and executed maneuvers that ignored inertia and momentum. "Status of the nanite swarms?" Torres asked, watching as the battle unfolded exactly as their simulations had predicted. "Deployed and functioning optimally," Dr. Zhang confirmed. "They're selectively disabling Nexarian weapons and drive systems while carefully avoiding any harm to their crew members. Just as planned." Admiral Xerxes watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically neutralized. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds now drifted helplessly, their crews unharmed but their vessels held in quantum stasis fields. The humans weren't just defeating them, they were doing it with a precision and control that demonstrated just how vastly they had underestimated Earth's capabilities. "Commander," Lieutenant Patel announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the Nexarian flagship. Admiral Xerxes is requesting to speak with Earth's leadership." Torres nodded, stepping onto the communication platform. The holographic image of Admiral Xerxes appeared before her, his alien features unable to fully mask his shock and fear. "This is Commander Elena Torres of Earth Defense Command," she stated calmly. "You're currently experiencing a small demonstration of humanity's defensive capabilities. Would you like to discuss terms of surrender, or should we continue this demonstration?" The Nexarian admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. How is this possible? Your technology level was supposed to be centuries behind ours." "A common misconception," Torres replied, allowing herself a small smile. "While you focused on perfecting conventional weapons, humanity chose to explore different paths. We don't need to overpower your shields, we simply operate in ways your defenses were never designed to counter." Around them, the battle continued to unfold with clinical precision. Earth's quantum-based weapons systems methodically disabled the remaining Nexarian vessels, while their crews watched helplessly as their supposedly superior technology proved useless against humanity's unconventional approach to warfare. "The choice is yours, Admiral," Torres continued. "Surrender now, and we can begin discussing a more productive relationship between our species. Continue fighting, and we'll be forced to demonstrate even more of humanity's capabilities. What's your decision?" The quantum communication chamber beneath Geneva hummed with activity as Commander Torres faced the holographic representations of Earth's Defense Council. The initial victory over the Nexarian fleet had been decisive, but long-range sensors were detecting massive reinforcements entering the outer solar system. "The Nexarian High Command isn't accepting Xerxes's surrender," Lieutenant Patel reported, her hologram flickering with urgency. "They believe he must have been coerced or deceived. They're sending their elite guard fleet, over 3,000 ships, including their latest quantum-hardened vessels." Dr. Zhang's projection stepped forward, manipulating a complex holographic display. "They've adapted faster than expected. The new fleet's ships have been modified with rudimentary phase shift detection systems. Our current quantum displacement tactics won't be as effective this time." "Good," Torres smiled, surprising the assembled council. "They're doing exactly what we predicted, responding to the last battle rather than preparing for the next one. Initiate Operation Singularity." Throughout the solar system, humanity's true defensive preparations began to activate. The asteroid belt, which Nexarian scouts had dismissed as a natural phenomenon, revealed itself to be an intricately constructed artificial network. Each asteroid was actually a self-replicating manufacturing facility, built over decades in plain sight. "The beauty of human innovation," Torres explained to the council, "isn't just in our technology, it's in our ability to think laterally. While they were watching our primitive satellites, we were transforming entire asteroids into automated factories and quantum computational arrays." The holographic display showed the approaching Imperial Elite Guard, their ships arranged in complex formations designed to counter phase shift attacks. But they were preparing for the wrong threat entirely. "Dr. Reyes," Torres called, "begin the gravitational cascade." In the space between Mars and Jupiter, humanity's hidden weapon stirred to life. Thousands of quantum singularity generators, disguised as ordinary space debris, activated simultaneously. The fabric of spacetime itself began to fold and ripple in precise, controlled patterns. "My lord," a Nexarian sensor officer called out to Grand Admiral Krivax of the Elite Guard. "We're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. They're creating artificial gravity wells." The Elite Guard fleet found their carefully planned formation disrupted as space itself seemed to twist around them. Ships that had been modified to detect phase shifts were helpless against this new form of attack. "This is impossible," Kryvax whispered, watching as his mighty armada was scattered like leaves in a storm. "No species has ever managed to control gravity at this scale." Back in the Aegis hub, Torres watched the battle unfold with calculated precision. Status of the quantum AI network? Operating at full capacity, Dr. Zhang reported. The distributed quantum processors are predicting and countering every adaptive strategy the Nexarians attempt. Their tactical AI can't keep up with our processing speed. The elite guard's attempts to regroup were met with increasingly sophisticated responses. When they tried to use their own gravity generators to stabilize their ships, they found the human-controlled gravitational fields adapting and changing faster than their systems could compensate. "Commander," Lieutenant Patel called out, "we're intercepting communications from the Nexarian homeworld. Their high command they're starting to panic. They've never encountered a species that could so thoroughly neutralize their technology." Torres nodded grimly. "Send the prepared message to their high command. Let them know that this is still just a demonstration. We could have used the gravitational fields to tear their ships apart, but we chose not to. Make sure they understand that humanity is interested in peace, but we will not be conquered." In space, the elite guard fleet hung helpless in the grip of humanity's gravitational web. Their quantum-hardened shields, designed to resist phase shifting, were useless against the fundamental forces of spacetime itself. Ships that had been modified to detect and counter humanity's previous tactics found themselves facing an entirely new form of warfare. "Dr. Reyes," Torres commanded, "show them what happens when they push us further." At her word, several derelict satellites near the elite guard fleet activated. These seemingly abandoned pieces of space junk suddenly revealed themselves to be advanced quantum devices. In an instant, a small portion of space, carefully calculated to avoid any loss of life, simply ceased to exist, temporarily shifted into another dimension. The message was clear: humanity could have destroyed the entire fleet but had chosen not to. The demonstration of power was precise, controlled, and deliberately non-lethal, making it all the more terrifying to the watching Nexarians. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Nexarian High Command," Lieutenant Patel announced, unable to keep a note of satisfaction from her voice. "They're requesting an immediate cessation of hostilities and offering to open diplomatic channels." Torres allowed herself a small smile. "Accept their communication, but maintain the gravitational fields. It's time they learned that humanity isn't just another species to be conquered, we're a force that could reshape the galaxy itself." 1 month after the failed invasion, Commander Elena Torres stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Chamber in Geneva, watching representatives from 24 alien civilizations file into the room. The Nexarian defeat had sent shockwaves through the galactic community, appending centuries of established power dynamics. "Quite a change from a month ago," Captain Okonjo remarked, standing beside her. The chamber's quantum-enhanced architecture allowed delegates from across the galaxy to attend either in person or via ultra-realistic holographic projection. Hard to believe these same species were planning to divide Earth among themselves after the Nexarians' inevitable victory. Torres watched as the Nexarian delegation entered, their once proud bearing now tempered with humility. Admiral Xerxes, now serving as their chief diplomat, caught her eye and offered a respectful bow. The defeat of their elite guard had forced a complete reassessment of their civilization's place in the galaxy. "The quantum mesh is detecting no hidden weapons or surveillance devices," Dr. Zhang reported from his station. "Though several species are trying very hard to scan our technology. They're still struggling to understand how we masked our advancement for so long." The assembly chamber quieted as Torres took her place at the central podium. The gathered representatives, some physically present, others appearing as perfect holographic projections, turned their attention to her. "Welcome to Earth," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the quantum-enhanced acoustics. "A month ago, many of you viewed humanity as a primitive species, barely worth noting except as a potential conquest. Today, you're here because you've realized that technological advancement doesn't always follow predictable paths. The chamber's holographic displays activated, showing the failed invasion attempt. The Nexarian ships, helpless against humanity's control of gravity and spacetime itself, served as a powerful reminder of the consequences of underestimating Earth. Humanity chose a different path, Torres continued. While you focused on bigger weapons and stronger shields, we explored the fundamental nature of reality itself. While you built empires through force, we developed technologies that transcend traditional physical limitations. Lieutenant Patel, monitoring the quantum communication networks, noticed increased chatter among the delegations. They're impressed, Commander. Several species are already discussing the possibility of technological exchanges. But we're not here to gloat or to threaten, Torres addressed the assembly. Humanity has no interest in empire building or conquest. We're here to propose a new kind of galactic community, one based on cooperation and mutual respect rather than dominance and submission. The holographic displays shifted, showing the new technologies humanity was offering to share: clean energy systems, medical advances, environmental restoration techniques. Carefully chosen innovations that could improve lives across the galaxy without compromising Earth's defensive capabilities. The old paradigm of conquest and submission ends today, Torres declared. Earth stands ready to share knowledge, to trade, to cooperate, but we will never submit to conquest. Any species that mistakes our dedication to peace for weakness will find, as the Nexarians did, that humanity's greatest weapon is our ability to think beyond conventional boundaries. Dr. Reyes, monitoring the quantum sensors, noticed something remarkable. Commander, the emotional readings from the delegates, they're showing genuine hope. They're starting to see the possibilities of a different kind of future. The assembly erupted in discussion, representatives from various species engaging in eager dialogue about the possibilities this new paradigm presented. The Nexarian delegation, in particular, seemed transformed, their former arrogance replaced by genuine interest in learning from the species they had once dismissed as primitive. A new proposal is being introduced, Lieutenant Patel reported, her voice carrying a note of triumph. The Galactic Assembly is suggesting Earth become the headquarters for a new coalition, one focused on scientific advancement and peaceful cooperation rather than military might. Torres allowed herself a small smile as she watched the formerly hostile species engage in productive dialogue. Humanity's victory hadn't just prevented an invasion, it had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. Not through force or conquest, but through innovation and strategic thinking. The quantum mesh is detecting unprecedented levels of cooperative intent, Dr. Zhang reported. Species that have been enemies for centuries are discussing joint research projects, cultural exchanges, cooperative defense arrangements. As the assembly continued, Torres reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity's greatest triumph hadn't been in defeating the Nexarians, it had been in turning that victory into an opportunity for genuine change. Begin preparations for Phase 2, she instructed her team quietly. It's time to show them that what they've seen so far is just the beginning. The real revolution isn't in our technology, it's in what we can achieve together. The galaxy was entering a new era, and humanity, the species that had been dismissed as primitive just months ago, was leading the way. Not through force of arms or shows of power, but through the uniquely human qualities that had saved them: creativity, adaptability, and the ability to imagine a better future. As the assembly moved forward with its historic proposals, the quantum mesh detected something extraordinary: hope, spreading across the galaxy at the speed of thought, as countless civilizations began to imagine a future built on cooperation rather than conquest.